It is an economic story, an energy story, a story about the price you will pay at the gas station this week, the cost of heating your home this winter, and the growing fear in every finance ministry in the world that what is happening in this narrow stretch of water between Iran and the Arabian Peninsula could trigger the worst global recession since the 2008 financial crisis. Let us start with what happened on the ground today. The United States Defense Secretary confirmed that today was the single most intense day of American military operations since Operation Epic Fury began on February 28th. More fighters, more bombers, more strikes inside Iran than any previous day of this war. Intelligence described as more refined and more precise than ever. The targets? Iran's remaining ballistic missile stockpiles, its military infrastructure, and the industrial facilities that manufacture the weapons Iran has been using to strike back at American allies across the region. In Tehran, the capital of Iran, rescue workers are at full stretch tonight, looking for survivors, searching through rubble. An apartment building in the city was struck yesterday. The target remains unclear, but civilians died there. This is now the reality on the ground in Iran, a country of 85 million ordinary people, most of whom had no vote in the decisions that brought these bombs to their doorstep. A United States human rights organization says more than 1,245 people have died since the conflict began. At least 194 of them were children. The United Nations estimates approximately 100,000 people have lost their homes. The Iranian Red Crescent reports more than 4,000 civilian buildings have been destroyed across the country. The United States government has stated its objectives clearly. Operation Epic Fury has 4 goals. First, destroy Iran's ballistic missile stockpiles and the factories that build them. Second, eliminate Iran's navy. Third, permanently prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. Fourth, ensure that Iran's network of proxy forces, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, can no longer destabilize the region. Donald Trump, at different times, has also spoken about regime change, about unconditional surrender, about installing a more compliant government in Tehran, about encouraging a popular uprising by the Iranian people against their own leaders. These are 4 different objectives. They require 4 different strategies, and 11 days into this war, Washington has not resolved which of them is the actual goal. That ambiguity, military analysts say, is the single greatest vulnerability of the American position right now, because you cannot end a war if you do not know what winning looks like. So what has actually been achieved in 11 days? The picture is significant. On day 1 of the war, American and Israeli forces killed Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei, along with many of his top military and political officials. This was the most dramatic single event of the conflict, eliminating the man who had led the Islamic Republic for 34 years in the opening hours of the operation. Since then, more than 5,000 strikes have been carried out across Iran. Iran's air defense systems, already weakened during last year's 12-day conflict, have been systematically eliminated. The United States claims to have destroyed the majority of Iran's ballistic missile inventory and the infrastructure used to manufacture and launch them. Video evidence shows destroyed warehouses at missile bases across western and central Iran. Iran's navy, once the dominant force in the Persian Gulf, has been effectively annihilated. American forces claim to have sunk or disabled nearly 50 Iranian naval vessels. One Iranian warship was torpedoed off the coast of Sri Lanka, thousands of miles from the conflict zone, in a demonstration of the reach and precision of American military power. port infrastructure at Bandar Abbas and other Iranian naval fleets has been heavily damaged. Iran's drone manufacturing capacity, the factories that produced the thousands of unmanned aerial vehicles Iran has used against American allies, has been significantly degraded. Strikes on drone bases across the country have reduced Iran's ability to sustain its aerial offensive. But Iran still has cards. Despite all the damage, Iran's strategy of spreading this war horizontally across the region is working. Rather than fighting to win militarily, a battle Iran could never win against the combined power of the United States and Israel, Iran has chosen to make this conflict as expensive as possible for everyone. Economically, politically, diplomatically, Iran has struck targets in the United Arab Emirates, including the fire at the Ruwais oil refinery, the largest in the Middle East, forcing the shutdown of a facility that produces 900,000 barrels of oil every day. Iran has struck in Dubai, in Qatar, in Bahrain, in Kuwait, where the United States Embassy was hit and subsequently closed indefinitely. Iranian missiles and drones have reached Israel repeatedly. The situation in Lebanon is intensifying. Israel has launched a broad assault against Hezbollah deep inside Lebanese territory, raising fears of a repeat of the destruction seen in Gaza. And in the mountains around the border with Turkey, a steady stream of Iranian civilians are crossing out of their country. People who decided they would rather face the uncertainty of displacement than remain under the bombs. One displaced Iranian described hearing explosions 500 meters from his house. An entire building nearby, he said, had simply shattered. But the development that has every government in the world watching its screens tonight is what is happening in the Strait of Hormuz. 21 nautical miles. That's the width of the Strait of Hormuz at its narrowest point. 21 nautical miles, roughly the distance from central London to Heathrow Airport. Through that gap, on a normal day, flows more than 20 million barrels of oil, 1/5 of all the petroleum consumed on Earth every single day, plus significant volumes of liquefied natural gas, plus 1/3 of the world's seaborne fertilizer trade. The Strait of Hormuz is not just an oil route, it is the circulatory system of the global food and energy economy. Before February 28th, approximately 138 vessels transited the strait on an average day. Right now, that number is close to zero, not because Iran physically blocked the waterway, but because war risk insurance companies withdrew coverage. Without insurance, no shipowner sends a vessel through. And now, Iran has gone further. It has begun actively laying naval mines in the strait. Donald Trump responded to this development tonight with characteristic directness. Posting on social media, he warned Iran that if any mines have been placed in the strait, they must be removed immediately. And if they are not, Iran will face military consequences at a level, he said, never seen before. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth reinforced the message, telling reporters that if Iran does anything to stop the flow of oil through the strait, they will be hit 20 times harder than they have been hit so far. United States Central Command announced that American forces have already destroyed 16 Iranian mine-laying vessels in the region. In Washington, officials from the president down are sending one unified message to financial markets. This waterway will stay open. America will guarantee it. But financial markets are nervous, and they have good reason to be. The economic consequences of 11 days of war are already visible in every household budget in the Western world. Oil prices have been on a roller coaster. At the peak of the crisis, Brent crude briefly touched $120 a barrel, a 50% increase from where it stood before February 28th. American gasoline prices rose above $4 per gallon, the highest under either of Donald Trump's terms as president. In the UK, some petrol retailers charged almost 180 pence per litre, while others charged less than 130 pence. The difference between the highest and lowest price at UK petrol stations on the same day 50 pence per litre. The British government's Chancellor has warned that price gouging will not be tolerated and has called emergency meetings with fuel retailers. In the UK, inflation that was expected to end the year